divided by the slant height. God, sorry, my brain is not working this morning. So slant height. Okay, so do this one. 180 times 14 equals, and then divided by 17.464 equals 144.3 degrees. 144.3 or 0.5, depends on how you enter that in. If you use the 17 and 7/16, it's around 0.5. So basically 144 degrees. Okay, number 9. From the plan view of a on-center squared around, how many degrees would each brake line be if it was formed on a handbrake? So this is one I haven't really covered yet too much, but again, from a plan view of a squared around, where it has those lines in here. So if I was gonna make this half pattern and I was gonna form it on the brake, I'd basically bump each one of these lines to make this 90-degree corner. So it's really essentially just how we broke the circle up. We used the radius of that circle and divide the circle into equal spaces to get each one of these points. If this is 90 degrees here, this first one is 30, 60, 90, right? So each one of these bumps is going to be 30 degrees. Hopefully that makes sense. 30 degrees for number 9. In reality, you wouldn't bump it just the 4 times there. You'd be taking each one of these sections and you'd probably be bumping it every 1/8 of an inch or 1/16 of an inch. So this ends up being nice and smooth. If you only bumped it the 4 times, it wouldn't be very round. It'd be very rigid corners on there. And if it's light enough, if it's a light gauge material, you'd actually just take this onto like a blowhorn stake or something like that and just form it by hand. And as long as this ends up being at 90 degrees, that's the actual way to do it. But the purpose of that question is just to know that each one of these angles is basically 30 degrees. Number 10, what is the minimum number of views I would need to lay out any pattern? The minimum number of views to lay out any pattern is going to be 2. There's some patterns where you can get away with 1 view, but anytime you're doing a pattern, you essentially have 2 views worth of information. Like this squared around, for example, I have 1 view here that I'm using to lay out the pattern, but when I make that true length triangle with the height, to get these true lengths, the height is the second view's information. So I am essentially using 2 views there as well. So the minimum number to lay out any pattern is 2. Hopefully that makes sense as well. Question 11, how much of a plan view do I need to lay out an on-center squared around? This one I've shown you guys twice in the videos I've done. So if I was laying out this half pattern for the squared around, all I really need is just 1/4 of the plan view, because this quarter, this quarter, this quarter, this quarter are all going to be the same. And that's only on an on-center squared around. If I had a squared around that was on center one direction, but the round part was here, I would actually have to lay out the full half plan view to actually lay this out, because this half and this half are the same, so I don't need the whole thing. If I had a squared around where the round part was down in this corner, then nothing is the same. Like if I was to break this in half, like none of these quadrants are the same, so I'd have to lay out the full plan view to make sure I can get a proper layout. All right, number 12. So a dot in a plan view would be a true length in an elevation view, true or false. So if I made a dot here, that means it goes straight down. So that means if I was to take this, if it was this pencil or this pen, for instance, if looking straight down on it, it's just a single point. But if I turn it into an elevation view, it's perfectly straight this way, perpendicular to your plane of view, which means it's a true length in an elevation view. So elevation view, plan view. A dot in a plan view is a true length in an elevation view. So the answer for 12 is true. If you guys have any more questions on that, feel free to call me or text me or email me, and hopefully that's good to go.